Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hi everyone, my name's Elise and I'm your host. And I just want to say, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, and I hope you guys have a great day, however you're choosing to spend that day, whether it be with family, just by yourself, or out in nature. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas day celebration, however you're choosing to do that. As for me, my husband and I are going up to his parents' cabin outside of Park City, Utah, and we are spending the holiday with all of his family. And it's so fun to be around the kids and to get together to see everyone, especially those who travel from out of town. So quite literally, it's like the normal holiday for us, but we're really excited to be with our family today, and we hope that you guys have a great Christmas as well. I know a lot of you listen on YouTube, and I really appreciate that. Okay, the reason why I have a YouTube channel is because the software or the platform that I use to put out this podcast, it has like a connection with YouTube. So that's why I don't do like videos, because I'm not equipped for that yet. And I'm just solely recording my voice because this is a podcast. That's what I intend for it to be. But I know a lot of other podcasts are kind of switching to this video mode as well. And I would love to do that in the future, but right now it's not possible. I work 40 hours a week, and this is just a side passion project / side hustle. So there's not really enough time for me to do video sessions. It would take a lot more work. And for now, it will just be my voice, but maybe if this goes somewhere, I could then start doing videos for YouTube. But for now, it's just not going to happen. And I'm sorry to those who have asked me about it. It's just not something that I can feasibly do right now with time, scheduling, and all of the extra work that would take. But I am excited that some of you are very interested in that. I would love to do that. It just won't be anytime soon, depending on how things go. I am just recovering from a nasty stomach virus. I had to call in to work sick on Friday. I was not feeling well. I got halfway to work, had to pull over, and I've never ever taken a sick day at work, but that was just it. I felt awful. So for the past 3 days, I have felt like I've been hung over and hit by a bus. And luckily, I'm starting to feel better now, just in time for Christmas, thank goodness. And I just have to tell you guys, I hate being sick. I was planning to go hiking with my friend Shannon. That obviously did not happen. I stayed in bed for 3 days straight. It was awful. So I'm just now starting to feel better. I've got my hike rescheduled, and I can't wait to get out there and enjoy some fresh air, finally. Now, I did say that I was reading a book that I thought I would recommend to you all, and let me tell you, I loved it. It was so well written. It was based in the outdoors, in our national parks. It was amazing. I love it. And so I want to recommend that book to you now. It's actually a series, and there are 3 books out right now. The first one is called Vanishing Edge. And it's written by Claire Kells, and this is the one that I read. It's the first one in the series. I'm going to start number 2 after Christmas. Phenomenal writing, and the book really is, it's an amazing read. So it's about this, FBI agent turned investigative services branch agent for the National Park Service, and she's investigating, this campsite that was abandoned. And it is so good, and it is exactly kind of what you guys might like. Since you like this podcast, you might really like this book series. So I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's called The Vanishing Edge by Claire Kells, and there are 2 more others in this series. And so I'm like, I have to relish this amazing writing because I don't know when her 4th one is going to come out. But great book series. Go read it. It's amazing. Oh, and I guess the book series is called National Parks Mystery. It says that on some of the things, but on some of the things it doesn't, but it is so good. And the first little blurb is, an ex-FBI agent is on the desperate hunt for a party of vanished campers while a killer is on the loose. It's so good. I mean, I'm serious. I love it. Her writing is amazing. You can tell that she's done a lot of traveling to these places, and I think it's awesome. So definitely go read it. The next one I think I'm reading it's either An Unforgiven Place or Forgotten Trail. But oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay, enough updates. Let's head out into the morbid outdoors. A woman is found deceased in a cemetery in Virginia in December 1996. Next to her was an 8-inch Christmas tree and a note that read, quote, "Now I lay me down to sleep, soon to drift to the eternal deep. And though I die and shall not wake, sleep sweeter will be than this life I forsake." End quote. The second message reads, quote, "Deceased by own hand, Valium plus alcohol. Prefer no autopsy. Please order cremation with funds provided. Thank you, Jane Doe." End quote. This is the story about the Christmas tree lady who went unidentified for over 25 years. Now, this isn't our typical episode, but I did not want to leave you all hanging on Christmas because some of us don't celebrate the traditional way, and I know that many of us probably are still listening to our normal podcasts. And this is like a stretch for it to be a Morbid Outdoors episode, but if you're morbid like me, you'll think this story is fascinating, maybe. I heard of the story, I don't know, a year ago, and it was one that I hadn't heard of before, and I think it deserves more telling than what it got in the news originally. And so the reason why this is our Christmas episode is because of that one fact. She was found with an 8-inch Christmas tree, deceased in a cemetery, and she went unidentified for over 25 years. Our case takes place in Annandale, Virginia, and Annandale is near DC, and the population of the CDP was 43,363 in the 2020 census. It's home to the oldest and largest branch of the Northern Virginia Community College system and to one of the DC's area's Koreatowns. So Annandale is I wouldn't call it super small town, but it does have this amazing community college system and a Koreatown, which is really, really neat. This is a very historic area because the American Civil War touched Annandale several times between 1861 and 1865. Union troops defending the vicinity of Washington, D.C. frequently took positions in and around the town. After the war, farmers and businessmen returned to their pursuits, and dairy farming began to grow in Fairfax County. So this was an area that was really affected by the war, and after everything was said and done, they began to rebuild their community. Small communities continued to develop or grow near railroad stations and dairy farms. Residents built stores, churches, and schools for their communities. One interesting thing about this place is that Christopher McCandless, you guys might and probably do know who he is, but if you don't, he was the subject of the book Into the Wild, and he was from Annandale. Well, he grew up there after his family relocated from California to work for NASA. So he was born in California, but when he was 8 or so, his dad got a job with NASA and they relocated to Annandale, Virginia. The cemetery this story takes place in is 13 acres, and honestly, it looks like a beautiful place from the pictures I've seen online. It's got lush green grass with rolling hills, and it just looks so beautiful. It looks so much prettier than the cemeteries that I have seen growing up in Arkansas. On December 18th, 1996, a little after 9 a.m., workers at the Pleasant Valley Memorial Park Cemetery discovered the body of a woman. This was obviously very alarming because death in cemeteries, they go hand in hand, but usually the people that are being laid to rest are in the caskets first and not on the lawn. She was found near the section of the cemetery where infants and children are buried. So these workers called the police, and it was so bizarre for them. I mean, they, I'm sure they see strange things already working there, but to see someone deceased on the lawn that was not in a casket was very alarming for them. The woman was wearing a red shirt, a sweater, blue pants, and an Eddie Bauer jacket. And upon investigation by the police, it was discovered that she put a bag over her head and secured the bag with tape. An 8-inch Christmas tree and her backpack were found right next to her. She was also found to be listening to a cassette tape using a tape player and headphones. 2 notes were found. One of them said, quote, "Now I lay me down to sleep, soon to drift to the eternal deep. And though I die and shall not wake, sleep sweeter will be than this life I forsake." End quote. The second message read, "Deceased by own hand. Valium plus alcohol. Prefer no autopsy. Please order cremation with funds provided. Thank you, Jane Doe." End quote. There were 2 $50 bills found with her, and I just have to think of oh, did cremation only cost $50 to $100 back then? Because now it's like thousands of dollars. That's actually insane to think about. It was reported that one of the bills was for the cemetery and the other bill was for the coroner. Authorities determined that she committed suicide by suffocation, but they were unable to identify her. She didn't have any identification on her at all. And honestly, this might have been the strangest thing to happen to these investigators. Imagine trying to investigate a suicide without any ID on the person, and that they actually went out of their way to pay the cemetery and the coroner. That is just bizarre, right? I mean, I'm sure these people initially thought that this might be suicide, but it also could be homicide because this was just so bizarre. They nicknamed the unidentified woman the Christmas tree lady, and they reported her to be Caucasian, around 5 feet tall, between 50 and 70 years old. Now, when they did a tox screen, they found alcohol and diazepam in her system, and they started to talk about this to the public because they wanted to get this woman's identity known so that they could alert her family members. Authorities looked at many nearby cases with missing persons, and none of them matched this woman. Then, 4 years later, in the year 2000, a colored sketch of the Christmas tree lady was released. They had hoped that this portrait might be recognized by friends or family, but this sketch did not produce any leads to her identity. And they had all of their resources and leads were exhausted at this point. And the Fairfield County Police Department engaged Othram with the goal of using advanced DNA testing to identify this woman or a close relative. And if you listen to any other podcasts that do true crime, you know what Othram is. They are a lab, and that's pretty much all they do. They do DNA testing for cold cases, murders, missing persons, and Jane and John Does. So this was police's last-ditch effort to identify this woman. They contacted Othram, and they knew they needed to find out who this woman was so that any family, they could let them know, and they would know that their loved one is deceased and where her remains are. Fast forward 22 years, and in January of 2022, the Texas lab Othram did conduct the test using DNA. And these tests were actually made possible all by donations. And in May of 2022, Othram discovered a man, David Meyer, who could be the Christmas tree lady's brother. After David Meyer looked at the drawing of the Christmas tree lady, he was actually unable to say whether or not she was his sister because the last time he saw her was decades earlier. So detectives actually asked the sister, Annette Meyer Clow, and after seeing the drawing, Annette said it was definitely her sister Joyce. DNA was taken from Annette, and the Christmas tree lady was identified as Joyce Summers. Detectives were unable to find any connection between Joyce and any of the graves. It was a theory that she did this next to the children's graves because one of them might have been her children, but that was actually proven to be a false theory. Annette believed that her sister never bore any children despite a large scar across her abdomen, which possibly indicated a cesarean section. Now, I actually have seen the photos, and it does look like Joyce did have a C-section, but we don't really know the answer behind this theory. Annette theorized that Joyce had chosen the children's section of the cemetery as a symbolic nod to her belief that parental abuse can permanently damage children. And we're going to talk more about that very soon. The Christmas tree lady had gotten her name back after more than 25 years. But who was Joyce Summers? Joyce was born on July 20th, 1927 in Davenport, Iowa, to Arthur Meyer and Margaret Meyer, and she had 4 siblings. She was raised on a farm in Davenport, Iowa, and later attended Iowa State University. She then relocated to Los Angeles to work at 17 magazine while living with her aunt, which is actually super cool. She worked there until the 1950s, and after she left the magazine, she taught 2nd grade at a local Catholic elementary school. And around that time, Joyce began seeing a psychiatrist whose treatments of encouraging one to blame their own family, especially the mother, for their problems, alienated Joyce from her family. So that was like a run-on sentence, but basically she started to see the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, like his shtick was blaming someone's family, especially the mom, for all of their problems in life. And this actually caused Joyce to be alienated from her family by her choice. And I think when she started to maybe talk with her siblings about this, it didn't go over very well. In the 1960s, Joyce's mother visited her in California, where she had a 24-hour, quote, confrontation session, end quote, with her daughter. Not much is said about this except for this statement. I don't know what they talked about, but I can only guess it was about things that she had spoken with her psychiatrist about. Joyce then moved to Seattle and married a man named James E. Summers, but she didn't tell any of her family that she was moving or got married. Joyce and James did not have any children, and they eventually divorced in 1977. Joyce then moved to a trailer park in Tucson, Arizona, where she was described as being unhappy, according to her siblings, with what little they knew about her life. In the early 80s, Joyce's siblings all visited her, and she asked them to help build her a home. But the siblings refused, which really upset Joyce. And in fact, this visit was the last time Joyce was ever seen by her family. They actually believed Joyce joined a cult because they later hired a private investigator to locate her, but this private investigator could not locate Joyce at all. There were some evidence and clues that Joyce had actually moved to the East Coast, but the leads went nowhere. So the family, they tried to find her, but it just seemed like she had gone down this path of blaming everyone else for her problems and then expecting help. And when they didn't give it to her, she kind of just completely shut them out. Now, looking at the police database, they indicated that she might have lived in Northern Virginia in 1996, possibly like Alexandria area. And public records on the LexisNexis also revealed an address for Joyce in downtown Washington, D.C., which was a townhouse on Massachusetts Avenue. And I mean, her family tried to find her, they couldn't. There's really not much known about after that last visit with her family, and then when she turned up deceased in the cemetery. In fact, in the early 1990s, her brother, Larry, traveled to Tucson in an attempt to locate her, only to find her trailer abandoned. In it, he discovered 4 copies of a book titled The Target Child, written by Joyce Summers. And in this book, she wrote her account of a traumatic upbringing. This is the story of the Christmas tree lady. It's heartbreaking. It's so sad. And it just goes to show that, a lot of us experience different things while growing up, and some siblings have the same thoughts and opinions while others might not. And some of the readings that I did, her siblings did read this book that she had written, but they didn't agree with everything that was said in the book. And it's not like this book was published or anything. She had just written this, and it seemed like an autobiography of her traumatic childhood. My questions are, I don't even think that Joyce wanted to be identified. I don't think that she wanted her family to know that she had died. And while it's a really good thing that these detectives persevered and found this Jane Doe's name back for her, I don't know if this is what Joyce would have wanted. It seemed like she wanted to be alienated from her family due to her own specific reasons. But much to her family's surprise, in January 2020 or May 2022, they got their answers of where Joyce was, and she had been deceased since 1996. I also, wanted to share this story because it's like a little Christmassy, not really, but also holidays are hard. They are so hard. So if you are spending them in not the ideal situation for yourself, I feel for you. I understand and know how that is. And I hope that you can find peace today. Do something that makes you happy, and just try to just think like it's just one day out of the year. You can do it. You can persevere through this. And if the holidays are hard for you, I am so sorry. I can relate. And that's why I just wanted to drop this episode. Although it probably wasn't a great episode to put out, dealing with estranged family members, trauma, and all this. But it kind of goes with the theme of the holidays, in my opinion. I hope you have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and power through, like I said, if it's hard for you. As always, recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time. Okay, I just have to say, I hope that some of you like my sick sense of humor in releasing this episode on Christmas. You can obviously tell that sometimes things with family aren't always great, just like the outdoors. But again, I think this story is one that needs to be told. I think it offers different perspectives on trauma and upbringing and households, and I think that I am have a very dark sense of humor, and I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. I just hope that you guys aren't super judgy of me, because we're talking estrangement from family drama on Christmas. You can probably guess how I feel about some of those things. So hope you enjoyed this episode as like a mini episode and that you don't think I'm too dark. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Now I feel super awkward because I'm rambling. So, anyways, have a Merry Christmas. I'll see you next time.